Hey guys, I am John Carrick, and today we are looking at 100 Bullets 29 Contraband Commando. Is that what it is? Contrabandolero. Contrabandolero, number 2 of 3. And this is about Wiley Times living in El Paso, basically spending his days being drunk and watching television. Dizzy accuses him of being on, or Shepard accuses him of being on vacation every day. And Wiley says Wiley say it was hell? This is Dizzy Cordova, who he met the day before. She has come in from Chicago with Shepard, who is looking for Agent Graves and the other members of the Minutemen, who apparently all have amnesia, because Wiley is clearly one of them. Curtis Hughes was one of them, and not anymore. And Lewis Hughes went to jail. So Lono is out wandering around with a briefcase. And so is Jack, that guy from a couple issues back. But here's Wiley getting drunk first thing in the morning as soon as he wakes up, just with beers. And he and Dizzy go back and forth about if they're going to have champagne. Are they going to hang out today? What are you doing today? What do you got lined up? Wiley's kind of flirting with her, kind of not. And this is for the premiere of Smallville before it ever came out. But anyhow, they're going to hang out, and then Dan shows up, and no, I guess we're not going to hang out because he's got to go to work. She's like, I thought you said you had the day off. He does have the day off from the gas station. And so Dan's like, hey, we got to go. Gets in the car. Again, art from Eduardo Risso is amazing. Brian Azzarello. Brian Azzarello's writing is great for the subtext. You never really quite know what's going on, but it's always relatively obvious. I mean, these are low-level criminals going down to the other side of the border. They're in El Paso. They're going down to Juarez. Says for bullfights. Shepard says for bullshit. Shepard's up here watching from the shadows. Of course he is. That's good writing. That's good writing. And Wiley and Dan. Now remember, Dizzy beat up this guy Hopper, who got in her face in the parking lot of a bar. So now Dan is taking Hopper's spot. Not Dan. Wiley is taking Hopper's spot with Dan. Dan is this big guy. And Wiley is pretending to be Hopper to this guy 8-Ball, who wants them to go down to Juarez and pick something up for him. Presumably it's drugs. It might be people. It's never really made quite clear. Anyhow, here is 8-Ball meeting with Dan and Wiley, and they expect him to go with. He's not going with. He has a gun. And so there's a little bit of smack talking back and forth. He is sending them south to pick up a truck, right? I only know that because I already read this. So down in Juarez later that night, here is Dizzy. And we get what looked like the beginning of a branch story, but it never happens with these guys and this hammer. Nothing ever follows, or I didn't see what comes of it. I have no idea what these guys are doing with this hammer. Anyhow, Shepard and Dizzy are now in Juarez. They are meeting with a guy they know, Mick Kolchak, who is wearing a kilt and is Russian. And he apparently is running a bar. He is apparently also running an import, well, mostly an export business, either drugs or people from Juarez. And he's also, in charge of assassinations down there. He's apparently a shot caller in Juarez, right? And that's the nature of this conversation between Shepard and this guy Mick. And Mick is introduced to Dizzy. I want to call her Desi because that's the character's name I'm writing, Desdemona. But Dizzy Cordova is hanging out at this bar, and she's with Shepard, and they're negotiating. Shepard is basically asking for information. He wants to know if Mick knows Wiley Times, and if he's got anything going on with him, if he's got anything, any drugs being sent across the border, anything illegal being sent across the border. And of course, Mick denies it. No, I don't at all. And you still have my number on speed dial, so you'll call me if anything comes up. Of course I will. The next scene, Mick meets, as Mick is walking out, he says to Desi, you should be sleeping with Shepard. I don't know why he says that, but he does. She is a little taken aback by it. And then we get 8-Ball in the bar where he was supposed to meet Hopper the night before, and Hopper had his arm broken by Dizzy. I hope this is in focus. And everyone is calling Hopper Hopper, and 8-Ball wants to know why. Who are you? And Hopper is this little guy with this big attitude. And Hopper is about to explain what happened the night before and how Wiley got sent out in his place. Meanwhile, Wiley and Dan are meeting the guys they're supposed to meet. Of course, it's Mick, because, see, this is how you keep the actor budget small, how you keep the character budget small. See what I mean about a braided storyline? This is like the fat guy in, I think his name was Nick in Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, who had his hands in every little pie, had his fingers in all the pies in London. So, of course, it's the same guy who is they're picking up the truck from, and he tells them everything will be fine. Just tell the border guard in the 6th booth from the left, give him your name, and he'll let you through. This is the truck, and the truck has a girl in the passenger seat. Named Angelica. And she immediately adopts Wiley as her new boyfriend. Dan is taking the bug back. That's the car that they drove down. So Dan is in the car in front of them. And they're going through Juarez. And they are absolutely out of their depths. Neither of them have done this before. They really have no idea what they're up against. And there's people who know that they're coming. So here they are, winding through the back roads. And Wiley and the girl she just wants to have sex. She's like 15, and she has adopted him as her new boyfriend. So every line for her is sex, 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 because that's, semi-clever writing at this point. And they get stopped by hijackers, right? We don't know who these are. They could be cops. They could be criminals. But they kill Dan. They shoot Dan in the head. And that is a big middle. This is the act 2 of a 3-act story. Brian Azzarello, each of these, see, this isn't 100 comics. These are little stories. These are little stories in under one title. And that's why it's so good. It doesn't matter. Dizzy could be anyone. Shepard could be anyone. Yeah, they're recurring characters because it's easy to keep the price of the cast small. All right, I'm going to switch over so we can do Hey guys, so yeah, 100 Bullets 29. Who do you trust and what do you trust them with? Contrabandolero, Wiley living in Juarez, just enjoying his days, getting drunk and watching TV, working at a gas station, which is almost like my life right now, except I'm drawing comics and writing novels. That's the only thing that makes my life any more epic than this, or any less of a dead end, is that I haven't given up on myself. But this is a great book. This is all about who do you trust? This issue, just this one issue, let alone the whole 3-issue stories, the 3-issue story, which I have to confess, I did jump ahead and read this. We're gonna find out tomorrow what happens, but spoilers, it is good. It's worth it. Brian Azzarello. You don't need superheroes to write great fiction. But the one thing that's the same for this, the universal for this, for you, for me, for everyone you know, is trust. All the Conan books are about trust. The superhero books are usually about restraint and judgment, which is what this card is about, but it's also about trust. This is the King of Clubs for Conflicted Deck 2. And this asks, in post-collapse society, how do you deal with betrayal? And, how do you engage with it? How do you handle it? And give examples. So it really depends. Don't think for one moment that you're not capable of betraying others. How do you deal with when you betray someone? Do you confess it? Do you beg forgiveness? Do you beg forgiveness, or do you take your punishment? And that's not a begging. That's begging on a different level. That's saying, hey man, I fucked up. This is what I did. I've had to do that in my life. There's sometimes where you have to do that, where you have to admit you were wrong, that you did something wrong, and you don't have a good reason for having done it either. It wasn't just a mistake, like you knowingly did something wrong. Of course, the Catholics have confession, but in the Buddhist monasteries, they have a way of dealing with this. They make a public confession to each other, and they make joke of it. They make light of it. They basically say, can you believe what I fucking did? Listen to this. Listen to what this idiot did. I certainly have plenty of those in my life. Yeah. Wiley's best friend, I don't know if it's his best friend, his friend Dan, just got his brains blown out because they were in over their head and they had no idea what they were up against. And how this concludes, I don't want to show you guys. It's really good. How does this pertain to everything else going on in life? It really is. Life is what you make of it. There was some things I wanted to talk about. I suppose we could talk about the news. There's the fires. I put forth the idea in a response thread online that the fires were actually the destruction of a whole lot of evidence before Trump takes office of all sorts of heinous crimes, but that's a terrible thing to say. It's not fun to make fun of a tragedy like that. But I do need to work more on comedy, and comedy is all about timing and the circumstances in which you say something that could be perceived as mean, but instead comes across as funny. So it's maybe you got to be a natural, maybe you have to work in it, maybe it's both. Comedy is definitely a new challenge. That's definitely my next challenge. So that's what I'm going to try and tackle next for the zine. I think I've got drama down pretty good. Drama is easy, comedy is hard, as the saying goes. So anyhow, today is brought to you by Legacy of a Mad Scientist and The Legend of Ashley Fox. This is our comic book, Ashley Fox Ninja Babysitter. It is a 22-page story, black and white. It's in the description as a PDF along with a bunch of other stuff. Anyone who found me through Michael Sarion, thank you. I love Michael Sarion. Connor McDarry, you've got to read your Connor McDarry. I haven't read it yet, so I still have to get a copy or find a copy online. It's not an easy book to come, not an easy author to come across. So anyhow, I hope everything is good with you guys. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye.